I've played tons of NES games and I've talked about everything I could when it comes to NES stuff, but sometimes it's nice to get back to my roots and talk about games that you should play, ones that brought me joy, ones that I wouldn't mind going back and playing again. Truly fun experiences on the NES. There might even be some games on here that you might know about, ones that maybe you don't even like yourself, but understand this is from my perspective and I do feel they are worth playing. Also, this was a community voted episode, so thank you to all the firefighters that chose this particular episode. Let's begin. Many people are going to be confused by this game. Aren't all LGN games shit? Well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and behold, here I am, the beholder. And I think this game is fun. Now, I've been wrong about this for a while, so I would like some clarification and maybe you can help me out with that. There are two schools of thought as to what inspired this game. The first is that a while back there was a toy gun created by LGN's subsidiary known as Intertech. A long time ago they sold paint guns, and guess what? People used those guns to rob banks. True story. The second is that there was a film known as Gotcha in 1985. According to Moby Games, this game is based on the film. Now, what I think happened was that the gun came out in 1985, and the movie is separate and was based on the physical game of Assassin, which was played in colleges. And you know what? Ultimately, I have no fucking clue what I'm talking about. If you do, feel free to let the community know down in the comments section below. But back to the game, we have a light gun game that works alongside the controller. You move with the D-pad, shoot with a zapper, and yeah, you walk to the other side, grab a flag, shoot the enemies. It's shockingly fun for what it is. It also goes on forever, so you just play until you lose. But if you want to call it a win, just beat 4 stages. That's the only variety you'll have. I tell you what, the 80s and the 90s, that was the time to get a sports person to endorse your shitty game, and in the case of SNK, the choice person for their 1988 arcade golf game that was ported to the NES was Lee Trevino. Now, I've mentioned often, I have no fucking clue about anything golf. Period. In fact, the only people I know from golf are Tiger Woods, Arnold Palmer, and Happy Gilmore. Anyone else is irrelevant to me. Now, the arcade game I actually recently checked out for a conquest on SNK, and I hated it. So I wasn't really looking forward to the NES port. And while to me it's an incredibly mid golf game on the NES, I actually didn't mind it. The issue I had with the arcade version is that doing anything to change the clubs or even the distance you wanted to shoot was convoluted as hell. They fixed that to some capacity in the NES version. It's a standard golf game, and for what it is, I don't mind. You know, it's insane. There's certain franchises you see on the shelf growing up that you never bothered to check out. For me, it was Bomberman. I grew up in the era of the Nintendo 64, and I saw tons of Bomberman games, and they never piqued my interest. And even as an adult, I didn't go out of my way to play them. The only reason I played them recently was because I had a conquest on Hudson Soft. Now, the Bomberman game that was on the NES actually dates back to 1983. It was released on Japanese computers of the era, so the PC 8801, 6001 MK2, FM7, MZ700, and of course, the MSX. It was even modified for the European audiences and branded Eric and the Floaters. What a name. But the NES version that we're talking about right now was the third game in the franchise. It's simple. You play as Bomberman, you go around dropping bombs, trying to find exits, keys, and power-ups, while avoiding enemies and ultimately avoid blowing yourself up on accident with the bombs that you drop. With 50 levels total, I was afraid I wasn't going to like it, but in the end, I actually did. Got a newer homebrew game for you, Bubble, spelled weird but pronounced the same. It's a physics-driven Metroidvania where we play as a bubble trying to escape after finding all of the lost floating rubber duckies. It was created on Itch.io by Morphcat Games, a studio that I learned about recently, and while the game is simple, the physics and the artwork that are present on the NES for this is insane to me. It's quite literally a few hours of non-stop fun. You jump from water puddle to water puddle using momentum to dodge different obstacles, and while I don't have much to say, and honestly there really isn't much to say, You just enjoy being in the now with this game, and that's worth its weight in gold. If you want to add some variety into your NES library, this is the game to do it with. Oh my god, SNK, I am shocked that they are on this list once, if not twice, because they were a fucking force to be reckoned with in the 80s and 90s, and not in a good way. Their games were non-stop coin drains from the most masochistic developers I've ever witnessed. And what was funny is that the same influence managed to bleed into the ports of their games. For example, Ikari Warriors. I fucking hate Ikari Warriors with a burning passion. I would rather drink hotel hot tub water than play Ikari Warriors 1 on the NES. I would rather do naked jumping jacks in a cactus field than ever play Ikari 2. And I would rather tongue fuck a car battery at full charge than ever play Ikari 3. But what about Guerrilla War? The all but spiritual relative of Ikari. I actually don't mind it. But there's one specific reason why I don't, and that it's you get unlimited lives. It's one of the few SNK arcade ports that just don't ruin your fucking day. But that being said, if you didn't have unlimited continues, this could quite easily be the hardest game on the NES. Period. All of my hatred of Ikari aside, this game is essentially, at least to me, what Metal Slug would inevitably become. So if you want to see the inspiration, or the process that led to SNK's Metal Slug series, look no further than Guerrilla War. Created by Merv Griffin in 1964, Jeopardy was always there for me, it was there for you, and it'll likely be there for your kids as well. God willing, even your grandchildren. It's a trivia show that flipped the script on how someone could answer by providing you the answer directly and requiring you to solve it by phrasing your response in the form of a question. Now, the series did have a few releases on NES, but the one I'm talking about today is just the run-of-the-mill, bare-bones Jeopardy from Rare. Yeah. That Rare, the same people who did Snake, Rattle, and Roll and eventually Donkey Kong Country. This was one of their first endeavors when they developed games for GameTech. Personally, I love this game, but I would be at fault if I didn't mention that many of the clues you'll encounter are tied to things from society at the time. So if you have kids and you want to play Jeopardy or really any version of it on the NES, there's a solid chance they won't be able to answer anything. Even I struggle as a kid of the 90s, but it's still a great time. This is a ROM hack. In fact, the next game will be a ROM hack as well. And while I'm on the fence about bringing ROM hacks into the mix for 10 Games episodes talking about native entries, I do want to bring these games to your attention, because there are still people out there creating badass games on the system, now with new capabilities that exceeded those of the developers back in the day, and I love that. But Celeste Mario Zap and Dash, it's a weird one. The original Celeste was created for a virtual game console known as the Pico 8. Once reception was high for that game, Maddie Makes Games created a fully fledged modern PC release of it. So what the fuck is this? It's Super Mario Bros., but with Celeste mechanics. That's it, and it's rather short for what it is, and I didn't mind it one bit. I found it to be an interesting combination of two things that I love: Mario and games that ruin my day. A lot of people have a love-hate relationship with Mega Man 1. To me, it's the perfect platformer for the console, and to others, it's really mean, but what can you say? It's the era of Nintendo Hard, and between me and you, Mega Man 1 isn't even the hardest on the console. But that brings me to Mega Man The New Lands, which takes the janky, sometimes sadistic Blue Bomber debut and basically gives it the Mega Man 1 treatment without actually being Mega Man 1. This ROM hack rebuilds every stage from scratch, fixes the nonsense difficulty spikes, and rebalances the weapons so even the Hyper Bomb isn't just cosplay confetti anymore. The level design feels clever and fair, the bosses actually put up fights that don't boil down to mashing fire faster than your thumbs can handle, and the magnet beam finally makes sense in the flow of progression. It's tough, yes, but tough in a way that feels earned instead of cruel. Honestly, if Capcom had dropped this in '88 as a lost expansion, no one would have blinked. It plays like the real deal. I'm mentioned this game a while back during my best 10 simulation games to date episode, which I should update, but I haven't played that many simulators. Silent service is what happens when someone at Microprose says, you know what kids love? Slow, claustrophobic submarine warfare. On the NES, this World War II sim drops you into the role of a US sub-captain, and yeah, most of your time is spent staring at gauges, maps, and a periscope that looks like it came free with a box of cereal, but that's exactly why I love it. It's tense, methodical, and when you finally line up that perfect torpedo shot after 20 minutes of sneaking around, it feels better than any arcade explosion. It's not flashy, and it definitely feels more like a history lesson than a Saturday morning cartoon, but that's the charm. Silent service turns patience into adrenaline. A long time ago, I took on the challenge of tackling Konami games. In fact, some of you might remember when my 10 lists were dominated by Konami games because that was the first company I tackled when I started the Conquering Companies project. Double Dribble was one of the first games I played from them, at least on the NES, and when I first played it, I actually didn't like it. Then I realized maybe it would be better if I didn't try to overthink it. Instead of focusing on long-distance full-court three-pointers, let's just fucking win. And I did. It took a little time, but we did inevitably win. And that mostly consisted of me doing non-stop dunks and stealing balls from the opposing team. Then I realized the game had hotspots programmed. I actually learned that from a Family Guy episode. Count of three! For what it isn't bad, and I appreciate it. And that's it for today's episode. What did you think of this list? Are there any NES games that you suggest that the community checks out? Feel free to let us know down in the comment section below. Speaking of our community, if you made it to the end of this episode, you're already home with us. We're a gathering of video game enthusiasts that love to remember when life was just a little bit easier to live. And if you align with that, feel free to subscribe. Finally, the single most important thing you can do for me is to hit that thumbs up button, as it directly affects the visibility of the videos and the projects that I work on every single day. As always, from my family to your family, good energy, good vibes. Fortefyre out.